Good. Good morning.
Awesome. Good morning.
Welcome to everyone. We're looking at
Hey guys,
different
there's a
things.
few four different angles here.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Welcome to Yogi and the Geek.
All right. What? So in terms of starting Tuesday morning Phuket. So greetings from Phuket for everybody. Beautiful sunny Phuket.
Reading. One of the joyous things that I do is actually get up in the morning and read what everyone's talking about today. You know, it's like it's all corona. But I googled Phuket today, and it doesn't seem to be any cases of corona in Phuket.
We're immune. We have a big bubble over us
it's
right
the sunshine
now,
bubble,
and we're enjoying our immunity, and we're separated from the world of statistics over here, which is interesting, but we'll keep it at interesting.
Yeah, I mean, surely there are some cases, but I was speaking to a friend, and they said everyone's just having too much fun to go and even think about having a cold or having like a virus.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different world here. I mean, you can feel around here that tourists are down, and like the beaches are cleaner, and all these sort of parts. And I mean, it's interesting. I've got two kids, and potentially I read something yesterday that schools will be closed soon. So it's like, okay, we're going to have to school holidays begin soon.
The UK are thinking of closing their schools for 16 weeks.
Wow. Good luck, parents.
Yeah, I know. But then this is like a whole nother kettle of fish, because all of these people, and there's a lot of them are like type A personalities. Yeah. They go to the gym, they see their friends, they've got like this routine. What are they going to do now?
Oh, completely. I mean, this is so for those. Maybe we'll introduce what are we're talking. We sit down and we just start talking, and it's just the way we end up. It's a few hours later, but when we got together, we threw this idea around and said, hey, let's have a conversation and talk about different aspects. And maybe for those who don't know you, Kim, maybe you want to share a few things about yourself so people can understand, especially in terms of what we're going to share now. What's your spin on the world? Who we like? A little bit about you.
All right. Well, I'm a self-confessed long-term yogi, and a bit of a realist. So I think I bring in the spiritual side of things, but I take away the rainbows and the unicorns and the hippie voice. Awesome. You know. So my name is Kim. It's not sunshine, rainbow, moonbeam. You know.
It's your second name.
Yeah. So I think that I'm the chill. I'm the zen and the chill, and a little bit of flexibility. You're all the important stuff.
But I think today what's interesting and listening to your friend's message is, even if the virus isn't what they say it is, like even if in terms of numbers of people getting affected and what happens to people, what we're realizing is that our world is changing a little bit. We are becoming more isolated. We're told, hey, cannot leave. And it's a real mental health smash for those people who are really social and look forward to going to work and socializing. And suddenly it's like, oh, I'm at home and I've got to organize myself and I've got work from home. It's a whole spin. And that's where your work and the mindset. I mean, I always talk in terms of nutrition, like the 4 foundations of health: mindset, lifestyle, nutrition, and movement. That anyone who talks nutrition, I want to know, like, what's going on up here? And that's got to be affecting a lot of people at the moment. The fear and the creeping in.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fear going around. I think particularly for the older generation, and then people who are concerned about their parents, you know, who are already ill and whatnot like that. But I mean, in the bigger cities, I think they've been told to isolate a lot more, and I imagine that is like a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people that eat out every night and go and do something every night and like have a really busy schedule. I guess they're not prepared. Like, I'm a self-confessed hermit, so I'm always at home. You know, so me spending more time at home is like, sweet.
And it really starts showing the personalities of people, those who could kind of sit there. Like I joke around too and say, I go to work, I go home, I hang out with my family, I do some study or whatever, and it's kind of very simple.
Yeah.
And I think for those people who have that simplicity and kind of just doing their thing and are comfortable, it'll be easier. But there's a lot of people who are not like that.
Yeah. So, like, let's strip it back. What are, say for people that are like isolated, there's not going to be so much sunshine, what's a good sort of general health and well-being sort of routine? Let's like try to strip it back. Let's do like health and then movement and then all that sort of stuff. Like, what would be your go-to things that people should have at home for keeping their immune system up and keeping themselves nice and clean?
Let's get practical.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you a context. So my background was originally sports science psychology, and then I moved to nutrition and clinical nutrition about 15 years ago to try to understand what's going on more with the cell, because humans are just made up of cells. More healthy cells, healthier person. More unhealthy cells, unhealthier person. So we talk about, in terms of systems, they're a collection of lots of cells. So the immune system. So it's really, for me, that's why I use labs and things to try to get a better understanding. But let's break things down. Let's have a look at those different aspects. If we, I like to go the mindset, lifestyle, nutrition, and movement, and maybe we can start by helping people and say, are you prepared in all those ways? So if we knock off, let's pick a corner. And maybe we go the mindset, and then we'll go around the aspects. For me, it is like number one. I always talk about is purpose.
Yeah.
Keeping focused. And then
mission,
the aspects.
you mean, like a mission.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm in this situation right now. How am I going to? What am I going to focus on? What's going to be like driving me to give me the energy to go up? Because some people are like, oh, I've got no work now. I'm just lay in bed. I'll watch Netflix, and that's a disaster for the immune system. It's like a person who gets retired and suddenly in 5 years, the statistics of them surviving, suddenly are going, oh, what's happening? Because we've lost that drive, and I think that's a big part.
That's an interesting. Yeah, actually, that's interesting about retirees, because you think once they're retired, they'll be like, woohoo!
Yeah,
but they don't.
They come and they must sit on a beach in Thailand and a few drinks and all that, and you look at it and you go, what's going on with your health?
Yeah,
I've had a lot of cases. I remember a classic case was a lady who, when I looked at her labs, I was like, oh, what's going on? Because she'd talked previously, her diet was impeccable. It was like everything's organic and everything's measured and everything's perfect. And the training, she's spending like hours in the gym each day doing all these things. And you think, why are you so sick and unhealthy? And then you find out that she hasn't worked or done anything productive in like 10 years because her husband said, you don't have to do it. You got the money, you got the lifestyle and all that.
Yeah.
And so here's someone with so much potential, yet she doesn't have her health.
Yeah.
She's coming to me and say, hey, could you help me with the health? And the first thing I went through it all, and I'm like, wow.
So it was more mental health.
It's completely. And I think a lot of people, maybe that's a challenge at the moment.
How does that come up on your reading? How does that read? Because how does mental health read on charts?
I have what I use with personal clients. I have different questions. So I have a questionnaire, and it goes through systems. The first system being fuel. So I was talking about the cell. The cell needs three things. So fuel and nutrients.
Yeah.
So if you eat crap food, then eat McDonald's all day.
Yeah, I love that show.
And I thought I'd pull that one out today. And yeah, if you're not nourishing, just eating empty calories, your cells are going to get affected. You're going to get affected.
Yeah.
And then we talk about the ability to remove end products of metabolism, toxins. Let's call them toxins, environmental and things like that. So the cell is working hard to keep the cleaning process, recycling process. And the third part of what a cell needs is the environment. I might talk about pH and things like that. But I'm looking also in the questionnaire about the big environment, like how's your relationships and how's your level of happiness. So I actually have like a system where I'll get people to mark what's going on in their world, and when I look at that, it like starts giving me ideas. Okay, what's going on with this person? And labs, nothing shows up and says, oh, this like
you're
on that
depressed.
specific, your mindset. But things like, well, I've got one section on neurotransmitters. So we're talking about serotonin in terms of happy hormone. We're talking about GABA, the ability to, in terms of staying calm. So those neurotransmitters can give us ideas, same as hormones. People coming in with hormone issues. So for me, it's really trying to stand back and look at that picture and say, okay, now, is there? Tell me what you're inspired by, passionate about. The person goes, what do you mean? What's your purpose? I'm not sure. It's like, okay, cool, that's a start. All right, we know where we are baseline. Let's go from there, because you're coming to see me maybe because you're overweight and you've got for a guy, no testosterone. A girl's got hormonal problems. It's like, you want me to just put a little diet together and think that everything's magic.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
no,
all encompassing.
You know how big that mindset is.
So maybe I think for the first, for me, there's like, I always ask people from a yogic or a meditation point of view, what are you trying to get out of our sessions together? You know, and some people will say, I just want to get flexible, but I'm finding more and more that a lot of people are trying to find some sort of balance. Like, I'm completely stressed and I know that I need to move my body in a different way. Like, they might be cardio junkies and they might do a lot of exercise, but if they're in a job where they're crazy busy all the time and they're going to do crazy busy exercise, it doesn't really give their mind and their body a variation. It's like running your engine at 100 and percent all the time. And there's different ways. There's different ways to run at 100%. You can run at 100% and be doing meditation. I think for me, I've been teaching people just to be still a lot more. And that's so crazy that the whole world now has been given this task of like, be still or go home. And it's messing with people. I think for me, for however long that you guys are going to be stuck in the middle of wherever you're going to be stuck, is try to pick a task or something to do. Like today I found a link that has 400 and something free courses online from the best school, like Yale, Brown, Princeton. Do a short course. There's short courses on health, on science, on arts, on all that sort of stuff. For me, like this only just happened a couple of months ago. I found like I got myself into some really bad habits for my daily routine. So I got a whiteboard and I just wrote down, like I was trying to train like a kindergarten kid, you know, how you have to give them step by step by step. So 5:30 a.m. wake up, 6 p.m. Run on the treadmill, 6:35 clean the kitty litter, even down to that little bit, because I thought, okay, I need to just be a robot and follow this timetable until I get into a new habit.
I think it's nice though, that structure, and especially when you have kids and you realize having that routine is there's like, I was listening to a podcast of a guy who's a military, like Navy SEAL, and he said people get this idea that the discipline is so negative and it's constrained. He says he actually talks about freedom within those like parameters to say, okay, I know I've got to do this, this, and this, but that's comforting for some people. So if some people can take from that and say, okay, maybe I don't have the freedom to just walk, in some countries right now, to just walk up my door and do whatever I want and go this. It's like, okay, let's put in a structure of what I want to achieve today. And then to sit there and go, wow, look what I've done, and that feels great. And
maybe run the day like a working day. Maybe sleep in a little because, you know, you're at home.
You might have more chance.
But then maybe segregate your day into parts. And sort of run it like you'd be still working, but doing things that you know, benefit you. Maybe there's something that you've been planning to do or wanting to do that you haven't had a chance to do. This is a really good time to do it.
And even like one of the classes that are like the grouping of classes I really enjoy that you teach is yin yoga. And that chance, because I want to go out sometimes and like, doing. And sometimes I'm thinking to myself, you know, I really should be doing this. And I know a lot of people out there think like yoga or those, and they're going out and doing all this dynamic sort of stuff. And it's like, maybe I should, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, but maybe I should get comfortable in the uncomfortable of just
Oh,
being
yeah.
still.
Yeah. I find most students, well, my type A's, and I call them my big city students, I find them, um, they have a lot of difficulties just sitting still in a yin yoga pose. They don't even realize that they're moving and talking and they've come out of the pose half the time. I've got a student at the moment that's the same. And it's like, hey, don't move. Just be still for a second. And a lot of people can't. They can't be still within themselves and look at themselves, and for three minutes isn't a long amount of time to sit in a body posture. I might be a little bit biased, but I mean,
some people it's a whole new world.
but the way that I say it is, you could be waiting for a friend or standing in a queue or something like that, and that's the same amount of time that you'd be sitting in a yoga posture, and you basically switch off and like stare out at the world, and you don't even know that time has passed by. So you are able to do it, but the difference is in those like drifting off and not paying attention to anything, you're not really being present in that moment. You can still drift off and think about something, but actually be present in what you're thinking about and how you're breathing at that point in time. Maybe that's a good way to start things. Plus, breathing's just amazing for immunity anyway.
For sure.
You know.
You sent me something last week about an exercise, like to use your awareness and to say if your breathing is labeled and that maybe that's a sign that something is going on. Maybe you want to describe that?
Well, I use a technique called paw breathing. So, you know, you lie down and you use your breath, not just feeling like you're breathing through the nostrils, but your whole surface of the skin breathes. And that's a thing, you know, that's not like a yogi, like, did you know that the skin breathes? It actually breathes. That's a medical thing. Yeah, there's no unicorn about that. So, to get to know your body and to really feel your body, a good exercise is to lie there and sort of feel like you're bringing your attention to the surface of the skin. And at first, you might only feel, say, like the forearm or the thigh or something, you know, they're really easy parts of the body for us to feel. But you want to sort of lie there and get to the point where you can sort of feel like, oh, I'm aware of where my fingers are, where my shoulders are, head, neck, lower back, mid back, all the way down to my toes. And at first, it might just be an exercise in being in the body and just feeling that sensitivity. But when you work on that exercise for long periods of time and it becomes your friend and it becomes a habit, you actually start to feel inconsistencies in the body. You know, like, oh, like I cracked my jaw the other day, you know, popped my jaw, and lying and going to sleep, I was like, oh, my jaw's out of alignment. I can feel it pulling on my ear, you know, or, oh, I can feel like I'm not breathing properly. I can feel some sort of like pressure on my lungs. And so I find that you can, the more that you're in touch with your body and it's sort of your friend, the more it tells you things before big, what's the word I'm looking for? Big telltale signs arrive. Like before you get the flu, there's little telltale signs that are, you know, maybe you sneeze a little bit more or you feel a bit chilled in the body. If you're not conscious and you're not sitting in your body and you're not aware of it, you won't recognize those signs, and you will get sick.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic case. I remember we were talking about when I was doing more physical therapy, that the amount of people who bust their back, who do something in terms of a disc by pulling milk out of the trunk, out of the boot of a car. And it's like, it wasn't that moment. You were getting signals like for the last probably 6 months, and suddenly it was just like, okay, the straw that broke the... And there it goes. I mean, even people on the treadmill or running, going, oh, my ankles feel a bit tight today, and I'll just push through it. Push through it.
That's it. People push through it because they think, oh, I'm walking now, it's okay.
It's all right.
So I think, you've got to be more responsible with the messages that your body gives you. Don't brush them off, I think, as well. But yeah, I think that's a good point.
I think the whole thing you're talking about, this mindfulness. So there's some people that I know that I work with, when you say the word meditation, it's like, I mean, people come to you and they know that you're meditating, like in terms of your meditation. So they're generally probably, I imagine, more open to it. Sometimes. As a nutritionist, I start talking about like meditation, that I see the importance of it, and working with a practitioner, or just starting in some way yourself. But this gate of mindfulness, just going, could you just, let's try to be aware. Let's try to be aware how you eat. Let's try to be aware how you move. Let's just start there. Let's not make it all rainbows and unicorns. Let's because that's, some people like get freaked out, like you say, and that's the beauty of your work, is you're very practical about it. You don't sit there and kind of
this is how you do it. No, I have a lot of people. I had one the other day as well. Men in particular. I don't meditate. I can't meditate. No. So I actually turn it around, and I don't call it meditation. I just say to them, hey, I've got this really cool breathing exercise. Do you want to try it?
And we love exercise.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's a closer one.
So,
it's a better preach.
That's when I find, you just use a different word. Yeah. You've got to the same message can be sent out to the world in so many different formats and in so many different ways, the same message. Yeah. You've got to teach it for the way that people will receive it. You can't, you've got to and I think that's the beauty of being like practitioners and teachers, and part of our job is to read the situation and read the person and give them the information that they require in a format that they can digest. Yeah.
I mean, that's the beautiful individuality to sit down and say, okay, this is you, what's going on with your world, and this generalization of everybody should eat like this, or everybody, that's where that gets really thrown out the window. And one of the things people always say, is this food good for me or bad for me? And it's like, it depends. Obviously, if it's processed and refined, let's see it, and let's see also, even without it, to see your response. I think that's important. If something comes out of like this whole, I don't know, environment, this what's going on right now, that people do check in a little bit more and say, how's that feeling? Like a lot of people, you'll ask the question, I'll ask a question about what happens after you eat. And it's like, well, I'm eating at my desk, and it's kind of like, I've got 10 minutes, so I don't know, I've never really thought of it like that. Food just kind of fills me up. And it's not like, well, how does food affect you? And it's like, and so by having time and maybe this opportunity to sit down and go, I'm about to eat, and do you know what? Once I'm going to eat, and I'm going to focus on eating, and I'm going to relax, and I'm going to realize how much is enough and how it makes me feel. And maybe that's your day. It's like, today, what's my goal? I'm actually going to see what happens when I eat, like how that makes me feel.
Mindfully eat.
Yeah, mindfully eat. And see what
Don't have the radio or the TV or like the phone or anything next to you. Just like chew the food. Be grateful for the food. I know. Mind-blowing.
Who knows?
Mind-blowing.
Maybe something will grow from there.
So we're digressing, which we always
We're going to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's look at lifestyle.
Okay. So, but first, let's say, so mental. Pick some tasks. Don't overthink it. Be nice to yourself, and maybe just start with being more mindful of your day.
Beautiful.
You've got plenty of time to do that now. Like your world has become a little bit smaller. So your distractions have also got less, perhaps. So maybe, set aside a goal about being more mindful on you.
Yeah.
And just thinking about, like, how do I feel when I wake up? How do I feel after I've eaten this meal? Do I need another meal? Is it just boredom?
Yeah, completely. Which anyone who's overweight, there is some aspect of either emotional eating or boredom or distraction, or food plays some role apart from its fuel and nutrients. And it doesn't have to, there's a social aspect to food, but it's always being aware about, is it out of balance? Do I need to bring it a little bit more into balance? And
So where does food come into? Lifestyle or nutrition?
Yeah, food, the carpenter, the saying carpenter looks at everything I want to put food into all the aspects, but lifestyle for me is really, I talk about work with clients, let's break our day down. What have we got? We've got a work period, we've got a sleep and relaxation, which is critical. in terms of now we talk about the immune system, we talk about health, and then we've got this other in-between time. So work-wise, for a lot of people, that's a different dynamic now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a lot of opportunities for some people to be still working from home. Yeah. So, they've probably got a really nice routine. But for the others that their lifestyle's completely changed now, they're stuck in a room or stuck in a house, what do they do?
I love the idea, and I imagine, just kind of putting out, I was listening to things that are happening in Italy and America and different countries, and saying
I love the music and the DJs.
Yeah, there's some things going on, but I imagine for a lot of people, it's either for now it's business as usual, or it's like, okay, your home office. So I know for a lot of the guys that when I was Microsoft, my wife does projects for Microsoft, and the events are all out now. So they're doing now webinars, and they're putting everything online. I love this idea of self-education. I love this idea of going, wow, look how many different opportunities, different programs there are out there that a person might say, do you know what? I hate my job. It's like, cool, here's a great opportunity to retrain now. Because I talk about, imagine doing 8 hours, and I know we feel blessed for what we do every day, but that's not the norm for a lot of people I know. It's like, I got to pay the bills to the mortgage for the family, and I get that, and that's why I'm really blessed. But what I say to those people is, you're spending 8, 10, something like 10, I wish, 14 hours working on a job that I don't like. It's like, here's maybe an opportunity that you can get some new skills, that you can focus on new things.
Or to let your mind rest on the monotony of something you don't like, and maybe try to find something that you do like. Even if it's not like, we're not saying quit your job and find something else, but it might light a candle. A light bulb might go off in this period of time, however long it is, that you might find something that you like.
Completely.
So it starts off as a hobby and builds up to something more.
So again, that aspect of maybe if there's more time in there, it's like, okay, explore these things. So work, trying to find in terms of some form of balance and to motivate, to be motivated. I said, if you're spending a lot of time doing something you don't like, that's going to affect the body. It's going to affect your health. And then recovery, sleep.
Sleep's a big one for you.
Everything that's coming out right now, if they're giving out tips, if you just do best top 10 things for the virus, sleep's in there. And it should be. Anyone who talks about the immune system knows that poor sleep is an issue, that we have night shift workers, we look at their immune system, in terms of studying. If I look at flight attendants or people who jump in and mess with what we call the circadian rhythm, the sleep-wake cycle, it is so fundamental to who we are, and these rhythms. And when we break the rhythm, and a lot of people I know who are night shift workers, and I'll say, where do you feel your health really started breaking down? Or a flight attendant, and they're like, yeah, I've been night shift now for 5 years, and I felt 2 years into it, I really started gaining weight. I started just hormones, and we look at their hormone panel, or we look at things, and it's like, ooh, for a guy, your testosterone's really low. Now, maybe it was before, but this lack of sleep, or this is a real issue at the moment. So for me, recovery, sleep is a big one.
I know that this is probably a question which is really weird, but what is, it might be different for everyone, what is the good, what's the minimum amount of sleep that you should have for your stress receptors, your cortisol levels, melatonin, all that sort of stuff?
So what cortisol does, so you wake up, so if we kind of describe, maybe we'll put something up there in terms of cortisol later, but it's just, so you wake up, cortisol peaks about 30 minutes to an hour. Cortisol says get out of bed. It's a blood sugar regulator, so it helps push up blood sugar to kind of get your butt going, get out of bed, don't be lazy. And then throughout the day, the curve starts just going down towards the afternoon and evening, where it's saying your blood sugar should be pretty cool now. You don't need me for doing extra. And then as we start winding down, so the sun starts coming down, hormones like melatonin will start just kind of appearing and saying, okay, we're ready for this new cycle. So my rule for sleep, what I've seen in healthy people and what I've experienced in terms of myself, is try to get to bed as early as possible. We've always said that. Early bird catches the worm. I think there's so much to that, getting to bed as early as possible. And then the ideal, how long? I actually like, if it's possible, to let your body sleep as long as it needs. Now, if you go to bed, say earlier, hopefully that means you're going to wake up earlier. You have an alarm as a backup, but hoping the body says, cool, I got my recovery time. I got my detox, like all the pathways and all the things that I needed to do while I was sleeping. Like, the job's done now. I'm ready for a new cycle. Now work. So this whole work, recover from the work, and it's just cycling around.
But if you, like, does your melatonin and serotonin and those things that we develop naturally in the body, they're triggered by outside environment, like sunshine, nighttime?
Absolutely.
So people that don't get out in the sunshine, the sunshine's not entering their body and triggering these things,
hitting their eyes.
Yeah. So you said when you wake up in the morning, your cortisol wakes up and tells you to get up.
Sure.
With the people
in an ideal place.
So if you're waking up and feeling like I haven't even, I feel like I haven't even slept yet, and I just want to keep sleeping, what is it that they need to do?
I mean, there's a high probability that, there's a few different factors, but it may mean that cortisol is not doing its job properly, which then might say, okay, should we look at that? And generally cortisol, the ideal is to do urine or saliva, like 4 spots at start of the day, a few hours later, and they'll do it throughout the day and in the evening to check, okay, is it now low? And if we don't have a nice curve, then that can, obviously, your body won't feel energized, so it's not high in the morning, low in the evening. There'll be a problem. I've had people who have flatlined. Had one lady who had breast cancer, went through chemo, radiation, and she was like a blip. And she was zombie. She felt like a zombie because cortisol is not regulating her blood sugar. That's its job. So she doesn't have the gas. I had one guy who had completely flipped. So the night, like he's wired. So he might be tired. That saying tired and wired. His cortisol's like, let's go.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting in his case was this guy. He's young. You look at him and you're like super fit and all that. And you think, why? What's going on? And actually, he'd been to a few places and they just couldn't see that part. But when we did some different, like I go first to the standard testing. I'll look at what a doctor will look at, but then we looked at some alternatives and I looked for his gut terrain. So what was going on with his gut? And he had a massive imbalance of, so too many bad bugs, not enough good bugs.
Yeah.
And he actually sent him to someone to say, okay, let's remove some of these bad guys. And then his sleep went back into pattern.
Really?
So sometimes a yeast overgrowth or a pathogenic bacterial overgrowth can change the way that a person sleeps. Body's doing a lot of things.
So gut health, basically.
So gut health is critical. Gut health we know is critical to neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA, dopamine, those guys, but also to other aspects, even sexual hormones and things like that. We're seeing more and more. We know so little about the relationships yet, but enough to say that the gut is the kind of the center and this enteric nervous system, the nervous system including the brain, to see that how a person's functioning. But if their curve is not looking like a usual, here's the day, sun's up, you're up, sun's down, it's flat for cortisol, then a lot of people will feel energetically like something's wrong.
Okay, so for people that are obviously they're not going to be out more, they're not going to be out so much, they won't see so much sunlight, is there something or a supplement or something that they should probably take while they're in isolation?
So how we hack it. So
maybe iHerb's not delivering to,
and that's the problem too. I was going to say I'm waiting for my iHerb and then
me
not
too,
delivering to Thailand. I'm like,
but maybe there's some online delivery system that's doing it.
Let's talk a bit different.
Or if they're not a supplement, is there something else they can do? There's breathing exercises that you can do to wake up and you know.
I think that's where you basically obviously look around what's possibilities. In terms of certain herbs, we've got this class called the adaptogens. Ashwagandha being one, rhodiola, holy basil, all those herbs, they were coined the name adaptogen because they live in remote environments. Whether it's the top of the Himalayas or into Siberia or this ginseng family. So these plants created chemicals. Nature's so intelligent. They created chemicals to actually handle the stress. And when we take them, it helps our body adapt to the stresses and helps balance cortisol. So if the person, say the lady whose cortisol was flat, what I was doing was I was saying, okay, I need to bring this up. So diet wise, for the zombie person who has a flat cortisol, I'm like, okay, I want you actually eating every 3 hours because you need help to get your energy up.
Yeah,
You cannot,
to
because
get the
cortisol's
motor
job.
running.
And then I'm going to get you some, her thyroid wasn't also the best. So I got an ashwagandha, holy basil, rhodiola. There was a combination. We put those in. We also looked at anti-inflammatory action because her body had been through a storm. So it was like looking at fish oil.
She was doing chemo and all that.
Yeah, vitamin D. So I had her using cod liver oil in terms of that. So it was really, she was depleted. She was malnourished because her body had been through so much. So it was really nourishing, and it was incredible to see her change in her chart to say, okay, that could work. But part of it, energy-wise, she didn't have the energy to train. So it was some things that gone, we just want you to move. Could you move just a little bit in terms of energy building in the morning and some of your exercise that you would do?
Like a loosening exercise or something.
So that would be a flatlining person. But the person, say, whose curve is like, say, in the morning, it's like full on. That person there, I would be, maybe that's the type A who's like, got to do it, got to get onto it. Then for that person, it would be like, okay, instead of training so intensely in the morning, can we just lower it down a little bit? Yeah. And in terms of taking a moment in the morning, how could you just connect, like breath work? Because they're very like thinking a lot. In terms of diet, it would be, okay, we got to really watch out for sugar. Like, could you go more good fats? You might start the morning with a smoothie with avocado or something like that. And so it's a very different, like a different approach. But those adaptogens help the person who's up here come down, and the person here go up, because the body wants equilibrium. It wants to be in balance. It knows what it means.
So adaptogens, that's a cool word. And there's adaptogens for people that need to pick up it during the morning, and then there's adaptogens for people that need to like not be so crazy in the morning. And even out a little bit.
Absolutely.
More.
And it's the same ones. It's just the body again. It's knowing, okay, you process it this way versus another person processes it.
I mean, from my personal point of view, I know ashwagandha like completely helped me, and I've actually you introduced me to ashwagandha. Thank you. And I gave it to my mum. I bought some for my mum when I was in Australia. I just actually spoke to her today, and she's like 1 a.m. in the UK, and she's not sleeping, and her head's still going. And I said, have you started taking the ashwagandha tablets yet? No, I should really do that.
Yeah.
You know,
no better time right now.
Yeah. But the other ones I haven't really heard about before, the other ones that you mentioned.
Holy basil we have in Thailand. Rhodiola is a European herb, and obviously all the ginseng family, Korean ginseng, Siberian, like the nature knew how to do this, and so it's just different parts of the world that have.
So cool. I thought ginseng, like. I've been told from a Chinese point of view that ginseng was really like a man thing. It was better for men, and if you already have like a cold or something like that, or a virus, don't take the ginseng because it can actually overstimulate. So ginseng and royal jelly, I was told, were more for like masculine energy, like more for men to take. I don't know whether that's what you're taking.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I've definitely given it to females, or given combinations to females. My feeling is that I find it hard to think that nature would so say that this is purely male. I think maybe the more, for a person who's really like, what's male classically, like they might be overdoing it and pushing it too far. And maybe if you felt, I mean, anytime you feel like you're taking a herb and you're like, wow, it just feels too much. It feels too strong. It's like, okay, back off, try something else.
Yeah.
Maybe a rhodiola, or maybe one of the holy basil works a little bit better.
And that's coming back to mindfulness again.
Exactly.
So you can't separate them. But like if you're taking a herb and you feel like you're running like a marathon, like...
And your heart rate's like going, you're like, whoa, that's too much. And this is also, I think I have got male clients who have more feminine characteristics, and I've got female clients who have more male characteristics. And it's like, how does that shape up? And that's where, again, at the end of the day, I mean, any of this, it's really important to be tuning in. Same as this supplement, I get people come in with bags of supplements, and I'll say, "What's that for? And how does that help you?" And they're like, "Oh, I just read about it I saw it on Facebook, or I saw it on my friends taking it." And it's like, look, I understand that, but how does it feel for you? And we go through, and it's like, oh, I'm not sure. I'm taking 10 different ones at the moment. And it's like, there's a lot of interactions. I know it's a herb, but that doesn't mean it's safe.
Yeah.
So we really have to be.
So not all herbs, and herbs that you read online, like this is really good for you. Not all herbs are good for everybody.
I think there's a definite. I mean, some of the, and it's a great point. Some of the adaptogens a person, like we're talking about, may be reacting badly. And you're like, pull it out. Same in terms of, I mean, herbs are pretty powerful still.
Yeah, crazy.
And so for me, it does warrant a person to just go, okay, what's my aim with this? I do my self-research. I might speak to a practitioner, either a naturopath or someone like that who really specializes, a herbalist who really knows herbs. And I'm going to see, obviously, if this first feels like they think it matches me, and then to explore with that. But the minute, even if that person, so often that person, the practitioner said, hey, this is the one I want you. If you're tuned in and going, I'm not feeling it.
I'm not feeling it, yeah.
It's like...
So that's the tuning in.
Yeah, and that's for all of this. It's like there are maybe some commonalities, maybe some even rules of health that apply to a good proportion. But then for other people, they're out the window.
So for me, like I would look at that and say, okay, like we try to be mindful throughout the day, but that's not always the case. Maybe it would be good to have like a morning check-in, maybe like an alarm on your phone that checks in the morning when you take it, maybe like lunchtime, mid-morning, like how am I feeling? And then in the afternoon to see what the effect is. But if someone's taking like a massive cross-section of vitamins, should they pull back from taking so many and try one at a time? Or, I mean, how do they know, like if they take this one and then they take another one and they don't know that these two shouldn't, are there herbs that you shouldn't take together because they like veto the effects of one to the other, or is there anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think of herbs, but I think of some things like people on blood thinners taking lots of fish oil. It's like, oh, that's potentially a problem. So we do have some supplements that, especially even if we talk about those on medications at the moment, it's like, oh, you've got to be really like careful of mixing things and to have an understanding. I think we need to get back to saying, what is the purpose of that? Instead of just being
like, I've read that this is really good, maybe I need it, and like loading up.
And I am I love a person, and the problem with today is maybe the hospitals and everything's a bit overwhelmed. Someone walks in and says, I'd like my labs checked. I'd like to do this. You might have what, are you serious right now? Depending on where you are. Here in Thailand, I know they'll be like, sure, we'll do those.
It's like another day here. It's crazy. I mean, there's less people, like the airports aren't busy or anything, but everyone's still walking around and doing things here.
So, I mean, my idea would, generally speaking, I would say to a person, every year, go get a series of labs. I mean, even if, say, a person's taking vitamin D, do you know you can have too much? Now, most people are deficient. And times like this, if you're staying indoors, it's like, if you're not even able to get the sunshine, vitamin D is critical to immune system function. Vitamin D also really needs vitamin K, so K2, and magnesium. So you want to see that you're trying to get that.
So how do you get those together?
So if you can't, in terms of supplements, obviously there's pros and cons, whole foods versus supplements. If a person's very deficient in vitamin D, I'm going to give them a supplement because I just know that that's what we need. I mean, the classic for vitamin D in its whole form, obviously, is the sun is the winner.
Yeah.
Second being, it's a fat-soluble vitamin in the liver. So we're looking at liver, like cod liver was the classic Northern European, especially Scandinavian.
Cod liver oil.
Yeah, cod liver oil.
Helps with vitamin D.
It's very high in vitamin D because we store our vitamin D in our liver. So that's why they used to give, if you talk to somebody in let's say, I mean, I had someone just the other day and their grandparents, they used to make them have it and all that.
In
because
this
that
modern
generation.
society, what do we use? What's a good supplement, or I mean, is there a food source that's got vitamin D in it?
I mean, a lot of you see a lot of foods, even milks, will try to fortify, meaning to add to it. I prefer if the health. I mean, it's one of those ones that you will find. Apart from Thailand, sometimes it's hard here because we've got the sun and all the rest. But if you're in most countries, whether it's Australia or Europe, you walk into a health food store and be able to get some vitamin D. The key is though, knowing how much do I take. Now, most of the places they'll use what's about 1,000 international units.
Yeah.
Now, if a person's very low, that's not really going to cut it.
Yeah.
Like I'll be saying, okay, your score is say 20 when it should be at least 40. This is in the American scale, but you're maybe going to need 5,000 per day. And then what you're going to do is in 3 months, you're going to get it retested. So you need to know, I do this, so this is where I stand, I do this, and I'm going to retest. And then when it gets to a good level, hopefully I get some sun, everything's working, then fine.
So for people that don't know what testing is or retesting is, how easy or hard is it for someone to go? Where does someone who lives, just in a normal city, where would they go to get their bloods tested?
I think
and what do they? How do they go about it?
What should they test? I mean, and what I can do is maybe we can have a link, and I have a sheet that I give to clients that they're home testing, and it's pretty thorough. Most doctors look at it and go, look, you don't need this, this, and this. But I like to have, if I'm going to see somebody, I like to get as thorough as possible. But if you're you're working indoors a lot, winter's been a bit strong, vitamin D for sure. In these day and age right now, I would 100% want my vitamin D levels checked. If I don't live in Thailand, I know I'm getting sun every day. So that I would definitely be doing. So what you basically, to answer the question, you go to the doctor and you'll say, could I have these tests done?
So any doctor
you
or
can go to a GP. Now, what you might have to do is you might have to put a little story in to say, do you know what? Which today is going to get a bit weird, because usually I say to a person, the Western medical system is still having issues with prevention. We're very much treatment system.
Yeah.
So you walk in and say, I'm really trying to optimize my health. Could you do these list of tests? They're going to look at you, roll their eyes. For some, I've had many clients, they'll roll their eyes and say, come on, come back to me when you've got a problem. Just eat a healthy diet, get some exercise, get some sleep. You're going to be fine. And I don't want to be just fine. And that's part of the problem. So what I'll generally say to a person is, okay, take this sheet in and go to the doctor and pretend you're just, my energy's a bit down. Watch out for coughing at the moment or something. And I don't know. And then you basically might say a few things. My energy's down. I don't feel as good as before.
Yeah,
and
so
hopefully,
create a little sobby.
Yeah, they'll then say, okay, well, I'll at least do this, this, and this. I mean, today what's interesting, so when I was actually looking at some of the testing. So apart from the actual coronavirus test, the swab, which I can't get done here, so it has to be done in a government facility here.
So if we wanted to test, we have to go to a hospital.
You have to go to a government, not an international one. They don't have it. You have to go to a very specific government.
And then they do like a saliva?
Do a swab. Generally, I think in terms of a swab. But there's actually other markers that are really interesting. So what I'm interested in at the moment is, say, the most simple test that every doctor does is called a CBC, which means complete blood count. And it's made up of a red blood cell, the white blood cell, and platelet. And the red blood cell is, remember I said about the cell needs fuel and nutrients. Well, a person who has anemia will show up in that red blood cell to basically say, now there's two forms of anemia. You might have a B vitamin issue, so B12 or folate, or iron. And if your body doesn't have enough of those red blood cells and hemoglobin to transport oxygen, that's a problem today. So it's like, okay.
So that means your immune system is low.
That means you're not able to get fuel to the cell. The immune system is the next part, the white blood cell count. And what that'll show is, I think if you're military, it'll show a WBC will be how many white blood cells per the area, and it'll give you a range. And what I usually say for the range is, you're trying to aim in the middle. Like we use a range 4,000 to 10,000. I'm like, let's see if we can get 6 to 8, somewhere around that. So you know you've got a good military. And then it's made up of all these fractions. They're made up of neutrophils and lymphocytes and monocytes. and they can give interesting pictures. But if they're out, it can be, for instance, and without, it'll get a bit complex, but if some of those out, it might suggest that we've got bacterial infections, we've got like a viral infection, if lymphocytes in terms of that's changed. So they can be a good, how am I doing? Just to keep it really simple, to go in and get a CBC, I find such a valuable. I hear they're charging like $10, less than $10 to get this one test that has probably, I think, about 10 different markers that shows different parts of the red blood cell, the white blood cell, and the clotting, the platelets. And it can give ideas about whether your cells are getting nourished, getting oxygen, and also if your immune system starts really low, you might be saying, do you know what? What's going on? Is it because I've been stressed a lot? Sleeping has been an issue. I've had a lot of infections of late. Obviously, if your white blood cell count's like through the roof, you're probably coughing and spluttering because that might suggest something going on. But I find that always, I mean, and most doctors will do that to look at it. It's just, and what I say to everybody also is when you do blood tests, always take it home. Say, thank you. Can I have the report? And just collect them so you can obviously see the changes.
Yeah. But not, I mean, a lot of doctors may do the blood test and then, you know, some doctors aren't awesome. They'll just be like, yeah, you'll be fine. You know, then once you've got your blood results, you can actually give those blood results to anybody else. Say, you know, hey, Craig, here's my blood results. You know, what are you? So you can get second opinions or third opinions from those results, right?
I think it's great for everybody, if it's possible, to have a good little team. Like to have a doctor that you really have good faith in and that's working. And then it might be the naturopath or the clinical nutritionist, someone who looks at it a different way. So any times I see things are looking like out of it, I'm like, okay, we've got a doctor here. Could you see them? And when you finish with them, could you come back? And let's talk about the diet, lifestyle. I mean, even for this virus, we look at the risk factors. And anyone with cardiovascular disease, they were the ones really hit most so far. And then we look at obesity. And so it is a great, what I was going to say is that like looking at labs, like looking at blood sugar markers and even getting a simple test. One of the classes that I teach here is about blood sugar regulation. Like the two biggest things for me for a person's health, blood sugar balance and inflammation. Inflammation is the root of most diseases. We're seeing that things start breaking down. It's fire, inflammation, inflames on fire. This fire is breaking down affecting our cells. That's causing problems all over. So
it's taking the good bits away.
It's really hurting us and taking a lot of energy. And the blood sugar balance, we know that's a risk factor. Not only obviously we've got diabetes, so diabetes is up there, and this is where a lot of people, when I'm listening to people at the moment, their fear for countries that have high obesity rates is really like, whoa.
Or like an older generation.
Diabetes, those with diabetes. And I mean, China, they were showing which segment, like they were talking about the males and the smoking in one part. I had someone just recently say that smoking had no role in the coronavirus, like the mortality rates. And for me, I was like, really? That doesn't make sense. It's respiratory. But when I looked at it a bit deeper, it showed that yes, that was a part of it, but so is obesity, high blood pressure,
so
in terms of cardiovascular.
So what would be a really basic way for people to increase their immune system? I think in isolation.
Yeah, I think the first thing is think about the body imbalance. So if we move from the lifestyle, let's talk nutrition.
Yeah.
So what is a person who is closer to their ideal weight will have a greater, generally speaking, like a more robust immune system, because being overweight is a stress. It's a big stress.
What does ideal weight mean?
Yeah, it's a good question.
You mean, I mean, because someone from Thailand would have a completely different ideal weight, say from someone from like the Nordics, like they're really tall and different.
I like body fat percentage.
Okay, so that's a good gauge.
And so for me, I mean, we use a BMI, and BMI can be quite misleading, especially for people exercising.
Yeah.
It has its pros for a general population not really exercising and saying, okay, you're
and that's like
so
the pinch
overweight.
fat.
No, body mass is just weight over height.
Okay.
So, but what I prefer is I prefer either using girths to see, say if a person had a waist circumference over 100 centimeters, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, unless they're like 7 foot something.
Even if they're that big, still having a waist that big can be an issue. But the body fat percentage, which a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of machines out there doing it.
Is that the one where you can put your feet on the scales and it tells you?
Yeah, I mean, there's different types, and a lot of them there's some flaws.
Yeah.
So if a person has an opportunity to use, like we use here an InBody, which gives I think a decent reading, but even some of the water impedance can give an average sort of reading. But let's try to say the person who is not leaving the house, they don't have any sort of way of knowing.
How can they figure that?
I think there's something to be said for a person to actually, like, often you know yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really look at stuff, you go, you kind of sit in the mirror and you're wobbling around and you're like,
in the mirror and
just stand naked. And it's not, and also what I will say is leaner doesn't necessarily mean, though, completely healthier.
Yeah, because we're not saying look in the mirror and go, I'm thin.
I don't have it.
Everybody's body is different, but how do they, like people listening and going, oh God, what's my ideal body fat? Like, how do I figure that out?
Process that? And like I said, in terms of if a person has a scales, they can look at it and they can use, like, go onto a line, just type in BMI and check what's my height. You just type in your height, your weight. That could be helpful.
Oh yeah.
And they can see there's a graph on there, and we can attach a link for BMI so you can work it out yourself. If a person, like I said, didn't have access, didn't know their body fat percentage, there's actually a few, and I'll put in, if we can put in a link of showing body fat percentage general with like an image, and then what it is. So 20% looks like this.
Oh yeah.
So you could look in the mirror and go, oh, that seems about right.
How much is jiggling? That's about 20, 30, 40. Yeah, right.
But a lot of people actually, who I see, I'd say 80% of the people overweight when we're having this conversation, unless they're very, like, maybe there's something mentally that wants to go beyond healthy, they'll generally say, do you know, I felt good around this weight.
And is there a good percentage?
So what I was going to say is a lot of guys will want to be, especially like in a healthy, we talk about below 15% will be the start of, like, let's say a six-pack is less than 10, 8%.
Yeah.
10 to 15, they call in classic text athletic, and 15 to 20, they might call normal.
Right.
So if you see a picture of 15, 20, you might just compare it and say, okay, that's kind of where I stand.
And with females?
And with females, it's a little bit more, so 20 to 25. If somebody's going over, so a male's going over 25, then it's like, or even over 20, it's slightly overweight, 25 more, and then obesity.
So then that starts dragging into your immune system, it starts dragging into everything, really, isn't it?
Because it's a consequence too. If you're overweight, what it generally means is there's something going wrong with your chemistry.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there could be a physics problem too, meaning you eat too much.
Yeah.
But there's also maybe maybe there's hormonally something going on. So maybe blood sugar regulation, insulin's not doing its job.
Yeah.
Maybe the thyroid's not doing its job. So these become stresses on the system.
And then the adaptogens help with that, right?
Well, the adaptogens will help. I mean, something like ashwagandha, it does help the thyroid too. But there is a lot of studies out there that suggest that belly fat has a relationship with cortisol. Yeah. So we have this term skinny fat. A person's thin, but they've got this belly.
Yeah.
And there are some interesting, especially correlations, that suggest that those who have cortisol imbalance will have a greater tendency to gain fat around the midsection, which is the most dangerous fat. And that's where, I mean, it also could be not just the cortisol balance, could be a gut issue, a liver issue, or any of those, but cortisol's responding to stress. There's a lion chasing me. I'm under threat. Now that threat could be nutritionally, I'm just getting depleted. It could be sleep. It could be mentally, emotionally. It could be movement-wise, lack of movement. They talk about sedentary lifestyles, the new smoking. So it could be any of those factors coming into it. But for me, I often think nowadays is the weight loss, like I said, if I can get clients to get into the picture of we are the sum of our actions, our habits. And so instead of focusing completely on the weight loss, why don't you just focus on the actions? And even this ideal weight, what is my ideal weight? If you move your body regularly, and say if you're even closed in, you're doing some movement on the ground, you're doing some yoga, you're doing things, you're eating clean, you're getting sleep, the body wants to return to its ideal weight. It doesn't want to even be incredibly underweight. That becomes a health issue. The body
when
wants
things start to balance, they balance back.
Like that adaptogen. It doesn't just everything go down, like cortisol pushing it down. It says we're going to try to help the systems of the body to regulate and to create balance. And the body wants to be in a natural balance. Now, we've all got different shapes. Where, in terms of a thinner person, they'll go to a thinner frame. A person who's more the mesomorph, more athletic, they'll hit in an ideal phase their shape, and the endomorph maybe stockier and all that, and they'll have a bigger frame. But it's allowing, if a person instead focuses on the habits and the actions, they get there generally. Unless there's something they're trying and they're really actually doing, so occasionally something's tripping them up, which it's like, okay, we've got to change the approach a bit. But
so in isolation, because they don't have such a vast choice of I'm just looking at saying my Instagram live video ended. Maybe there's like a period of time.
There we go.
Maybe, hang on a second, let me just try and get one more.
Bringing it up, we're still talking. We have to watch the clock. It's one of, I mean, it really is like, there's so much to this picture and there's so many different aspects. And that's why as the weeks ahead, to break them down, and for anyone who wants to ask us questions,
ask us questions,
like,
please.
It becomes more fun. We can actually interact.
We'll have to figure out how to answer the questions, because I've got like my phone, my laptop, my computer. It's hard work, but this is a new thing for us. So, you know, like, let us know. Was this boring? Was this good? Whatever.
What do you want to hear? Yeah.
What do you want to hear?
Questions? That'd be awesome.
From in this isolation, people don't have the opportunity of like just ducking down the shop to get some ice cream or go to this restaurant or do whatever. It may be a good time for them to clean up their eating, and because maybe they're not running backwards and forwards too much. Sure. Maybe some people find it being stressful at home, I don't know, and being still. But I mean, these are all just such conducive steps for people to just be look after themselves a bit better. This is an awesome opportunity for people to like go, oh, let's reset.
Yeah, I mean, it is the double-edged sword. On the one side, obviously, you have the opportunity. For a lot of people, they might have more time.
Yeah.
Especially that time aspect. People are running after, God, I just love a few more hours in the day. Those people may have more of that now. And it's like, okay, how are you going to use it?
Yeah.
The other side is where you go, all the possibilities of Netflix, and not to say Netflix, all like where I could get distracted more than I'd want to be.
And home baking and all that sort of
doing
stuff.
All that. It's like, okay, this is where it's a good, I think, starting this conversation, saying, okay, what's your aim? What is your focus? What are your purpose? What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
Now, how much time are you going to invest towards that?
Yeah.
And if you say health, I really need, then perhaps this is the greatest window for some people, because they're not chasing their tail constantly. They can actually do a little workout at home. Yeah. They can cook some meals at home. They can eat clean.
Yeah.
And they can really like focus on that and say, over the next weeks or months or who knows what, I'm gonna really dedicate myself to getting as healthy as possible. And I am the collection of my rituals, my habits. So here's an amazing opportunity to build some new habits and to basically change for the rest of the way. If I was heading in this direction, I wanted health, but I'm heading away from it, here's a great opportunity to bring it back and to focus on that.
And you know, like, it might be hard for some people to be able to do this themselves, and this podcast is about building a good community too. You know, like, people connect and maybe motivate and inspire each other, or ask questions, you know, like, oh, I'm finding this is difficult, or, you know, I'm okay in the morning, but then when I get to about lunchtime, I'm bored as shit. What do I do? You know, maybe other people have got some ideas that they feel that they can give advice for somebody else. I understand that this is going to be difficult for some people being self-isolated. I think it's amazing, but I think it's a really great opportunity for people to reassess themselves. It's a good time to be mindful.
Sure.
I mean, of course, some of you are going to have families, and it's not just you in the house. Maybe the family as a whole set some guidelines to work towards.
Yeah.
Alone time, family time, reflection time, education time, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's such a hard one, isn't it?
I think if you can start off with a base and ask yourself, what have I currently been, or what have I been eating the last 3 to 6 months?
Yeah.
What's my diet style of eating? What's my nutrition plan look like? And then instead of, this is one of the things that I get worried about, is when a person goes extreme, because I don't think extremes at the moment, even if a person says, oh my God, so cardiovascular disease and diabetes and all that, they're real threats to my chance of being really affected by this virus. So suddenly I'm going to go extreme. It's like, see, the body doesn't like that too much. So see if you can just start making some changes. Hey, increase in
little
terms
bits of changes.
Yeah, how many more extra vegetables and in good fats and things like that, where I'm going to say, okay, do I have a little bit more balance? I'll do a little bit more movement. And you'd be surprised that, like I said, the body wants to return to its natural state. Ideal. Yeah. And so if we can just give it those and just put it in systematically.
I think another good thing to do is to have a diary, like a food diary or a notebook or something, where you write the things that you're doing, because days become days and they mold into days, and you might forget, what's happened. Perhaps, I took supplements this day and I felt great that day. I had so much energy. The time went really fast. I wasn't, bored or whatever it was.
Sure.
And then the next day, perhaps you didn't take that. You didn't take anything, you're like having a crappy, I'm going to sleep in day or whatever. And then you'll notice the difference between the days where you're really good, the days where you're not so good. And I guess that will start to help you build up a routine that works for you, because everybody knows this, but it's good to point out, not everybody's body's the same. One formula won't work, or one supplement won't work.
And this is the thing that I see a lot. I mean, there's some generalizations even, okay, so people talk, hey, Craig, we think vitamin C and zinc, and they're some of the classics in terms of immune boosting. But this idea that everybody is the same, I often, like I said, sometimes we really cling to the supplements. Yeah. It's like in times like this, it's like really clinging to it, when saying, like, first, are you eating clean? Are you nourishing yourself as much as possible? If you have the possibility to get some sunshine, could you get that? How about the movement? I think we underestimate a lot of other possible things of health in terms of the role of breathing. Yeah. Like, it'd be interesting to put a person who does like 30 minutes of breathing exercise, relaxation, versus something like even an adaptogen, put them two together and look at cortisol. Like I have a great, there was a study done in Thailand on medical students, and they looked at a style of mindfulness on cortisol, and it was incredible, like how it balanced based on just mindful breathing. So a breathing exercise. So
they were given a breath exercise.
They were given a breath exercise. Yeah. Like a meditation, and it was just like.
Yeah. I think people forget how important breath is, because we just take it for granted. Sure. It's an involuntary process, and it's just sort of there until it's not. Yeah. But I mean, the exercises that you can do with breathing are so vast, but they don't have to be complex.
Sure.
Just actually being mindful of feeling your whole breath, taking a whole breath in is that simple. And then being mindful of taking the whole breath out, but not one time, not two times, maybe try for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, up to 5 minutes to start with you just being mindful of your breath. Yeah. Like, the body's breathing in, the body's breathing out, without you going, oh, what was that noise? Oh, geez, I'm hungry. Oh, I could, it's amazing how many thoughts can fire off in a small period of time. simple mindful breathing just like that is a benefit without having to put in all of these like holding my breath and holding this and locking some bandha, just breathing.
Yeah, I think that's simplicity. So if you kind of put everything together and you say, okay, let's see if you can do some breathing every day. Let's see if you have the possibility to get some sunshine, get some vitamin D. Help that if you have the possibility, open the window up and look out in terms of sunshine.
Say now, for example, I've got my curtains open and it's sort of light, but it has to be direct sun.
You really need to kind of get out in the sun a little bit.
So can you stick for anybody in like an apartment or something? Can they stick their head out the window and look at the sun? And what's the best time? I'm told it's like more, sunrise and sunset.
For the cortisol loves getting sunshine in the morning, but to get vitamin D, actually the best time is the middle of the day. That's when that's when it's there. Now you don't want to get sunburned, but I know in Thailand there's an app called D-Minder Pro. So if anybody out there is able to get some sunshine and they want to see how much vitamin D they get, and this is for me the ideal before. Yeah, go to D-Minder. I think it's D-Minder. It was D-Minder Pro, but D-Minder. And you put in your details what's good, and you basically it'll based on GPS will show you your location, and you might say, okay, I'm wearing this clothing at the moment, so I might have a pair of shorts, and there's this much cloud cover, and then you turn it on, and then it'll say for that session, you got 2,000 international units, you got 3,000. Like I know in Thailand when there's no sun, I'm wearing a pair of board shorts, I'll get 5,000 units in about 10 minutes.
And so what's the
for a lot of people, so I'm aiming if I can get between 2,000 to 5,000 a day from the sun, great. And if I need to, I try to keep my vitamin D levels here at least like around the 50 to 60 sort of mark.
And is it direct looking or is it just on the skin? Or?
So I usually put something on my face. In the morning, I want to go out for a walk and see the sunshine. But then when it's the middle of the day, for me, it's too much. So I'll just wear a pair of shorts, or a girl might wear a bikini. And then just, if they're worried in terms of skin and all that, and then do 5 minutes one side, 5 the other. But here's the difference. Someone with a nicer tan, it'll take longer. So someone with more light skin,
it's got to get through
it's got to get through there. And what you don't want to do after in terms of the vitamin D is you don't want to go straight away and have a shower with soap and get rid of it. So you want to keep the sun
kind of, because
it's basically, it needs to stay there into this fat layer. It's a fat soluble vitamin. It needs to then be transformed or transformed.
How long before you shower?
I used to say, there's different names. I like to kind of at least half an hour, but maybe an hour.
That's a new thing for me though. I've never heard that one before. Like don't shower after.
With soap.
Don't shower with soap.
With soap, because that soap is obviously emulsified. It'll take the fat.
So like if you jump into the ocean and you get wet or something.
Yeah, and then sit and do some sunbathing, and then before you get home, in terms of see if you can sit up. So so if we look around, it's like you look at your vitamin D. Having vitamin C, I think there's enough studies to say that for the immune system, it's good. So you might have a store, and you may even start slowly increasing. The beautiful thing about vitamin C is unlike the fat-soluble ones, vitamin A and D, if you took too much, that person overdoses, can take too much of both of those. It's not a good thing for the liver, especially. Vitamin C, you take too much, you get diarrhea.
Yeah, it just comes out.
I like my vitamin C in its whole version, meaning with bioflavonoids, and even like I was looking at Amalfi berries or Indian gooseberries recently.
We spoke about that.
But even classic, you might mix some ascorbic acid with.
Because there's two sorts of vitamin C's, right?
Well, there's, essentially what people talk about in terms of the ascorbic acid. But when we look at nature, it's a lot of it. I remember hearing somebody talk about it was like the eggshell, the ascorbic acid, and the inside. But for me, what I want to think about in nature, there are all these cofactors, and so bioflavonoids are important in the role. So if you buy a vitamin C, in my opinion, you want to look that ascorbic acid, the classic what people think of as vitamin C, actually has some supporters. Now, there's a lot, just like everything, there's a lot of controversy. Linus Pauling, who's the one who studied it most, worked with ascorbic acid, saw great benefits. I'm just always like, I want as close to nature as possible.
Yeah,
and if we're going to supplement, then I want to go, if I have the possibility, I'm going to try to get it in its most natural, active, bioavailable form. So a Whole Foods or something.
Yeah, like a gooseberry or...
Yeah, something like that. But occasionally, if I'm stuck, it's like, okay, I'll add that. Zinc, watch out. There's most of the zinc they'll put in a multi is zinc oxide, which is not a great version, even obviously putting the zinc oxide on your nose.
Yeah.
But look for 8 on the end, like a gluconate or a picolinate. They're the more active versions. And zinc has a lot of stuff. Zinc is critical to the immune system. It's also critical to building tissue. So a person, there are old signs that people white of the nails, but if they feel their immune system is down, yeah, taking zinc for a while. I mean, I actually was looking at different studies on the coronavirus using zinc lozenges. And I saw some that said it was great, and then this group said no, we replicated the studies and we found nothing. And so you're going to read
there's going to be
so many of those things. So I'm like, is it going to hurt taking a zinc lozenge, or even if I felt my zinc levels were down?
Yeah, because I think immune system's sort of important at this point in time. Mental health, yes.
Sure.
Good lifestyle, awesome, and keeping your immune system up.
And so without, like we've talked about, not over, like, why would you use that? So at this kind of time, having a couple may be helpful if you feel that you were deficient in certain things. So for iron, say if a person was vegan, vegetarian, and maybe they didn't get as much iron or obviously in terms of B12 or zinc, which is higher in, say, things like red meat, it might say, okay, for a period of time, I'm going to supplement. There are zinc in terms of blood testing. That's a possibility. Vitamin C. But oftentimes I'm like, just let's see how you feel. Let's go through it. But again, watching out for overwhelming. So if a person said, okay, Craig, top 3 sort of things. I mean, I think vitamin D is critical. And I think in terms of vitamin C has a lot of benefits, and zinc is a big one. Now, people will name a lot of different things. I mean, I even have a list from Metagenics is one of it's a good in terms of, it's a supplement company. They're obviously trying to sell supplements, but they've got it in terms of an overview of different things that you should be like preparing
in
and all
point
those.
In time.
And so a person might say, yeah, okay, well, I might get some zinc, I might get some vitamin C, I might get some vitamin D if I'm staying indoors, and maybe even a multivitamin if I found that my food supply or whatever, say I'd been eating not as well, maybe I'll cover some bases. But I'm really going to try to eat as clean as possible, because here's the problem. Person's going out bringing processed food and they're popping pills to try to counter that. It's just, it doesn't make sense. So you want to first focus on the basics. Mindset, lifestyle, getting sleep, that's a critical one. Nutrition, whole foods, clean as possible, listening to your body, be mindful. Yes, okay, add some supplements to that. That's maybe a few percent factor. And then movement.
Well, movement doesn't even have to be a big thing, like it doesn't have to be like this massive big gym workout. For a lot of people that aren't very familiar or comfortable with a lot of movement, it just means moving the body, like circling the legs, circling the hips, moving your arms from side to side, moving your head from side to side, moving your shoulders, like you see in movies where people are like, oh, let's just get loose, that sort of thing. That in and of itself is a good start.
I think that's
shake it up.
Do you know? And that's the thing. If we can think more movement, I mean, I love exercise.
Yeah.
But thinking movement, how do I move my body? So I'm not thinking about just the exercise
that
I've set aside. This amount for exercise. Like, how could you move your body through the day? You're sitting down, like, I'm already feeling my body needs to move a little bit more. I'm feeling this. I got to get up and have a shake and all that.
Like skip around the house, turn on some music. Like music's great to lift your spirits anyway, and dance to it. I mean, you're inside; no one's going to look at you anyway.
I was going to say, I mean, that's a great one. One of the tests that it's a very simple blood test. It's called ESR, and it means erythrocyte, which is red blood cell sedimentation rate. And basically, it measures the flow of your blood. And we think its flow is so important because we've got to transport nutrients and then also transport waste products.
Yeah.
And so if we don't have movement, we don't have that flow through. There. And so it is what we call a secondary inflammatory marker. So we don't always say, oh, it doesn't show where the inflammation is, but it just says your blood's a bit sticky. And I use that all the time. For every person, I'll always look at that to see the flow. Now, what makes sticky blood? If we go through in terms of parts, like Well, I mean, if I focus on the nutrition, a very inflammatory diet, which is what's the big guns? Sugar, vegetable oils, very inflammatory, like those canola, the ones the Heart Foundation gives the tick. Those, like the way I say to recognize a bad oil is it's cheap in a plastic bottle and yellow. Versus they're the three things. So if you got that, I mean, you're talking safflower, sunflower, canola, all those cheap oils versus let's look at extra virgin olive oil, expensive, dark glass bottle if it's the real deal.
Yeah.
And yeah, so glass. So how that, because it's basically saying, I don't want this oil to see the sun because it gets oxidized. So the light and the heat will change these amazing oils and change their structure to become what we call rancid. That is inflammatory. Sugar is inflammation, like it's just the refined, the high fructose corn syrup. So again, no better time for your body to go, do you know what, sugar? I'm just going to, for your immune system, we know sugar suppresses the immune system. We know it causes a problem, refined sugars. It's like, here's a great chance
to really bring it down. Less sugar while you're isolated.
Go sugar. And then instead, okay, so you might say, okay, instead of the refined sugars, I'm going to have some bit of fruit, I'm going to have some berries, I'll have some kiwi, I'll have something like that. With the maybe it's got some vitamin C and some cofactors in there. I'm going to have a lot of good fats. I'm going to have a lot of greens, a lot of vegetables. I'm going to get my proteins in terms of the density of it. But really, like I said, in terms of this flow is really critical. So nutrition as anti-inflammatory as possible, and that's where things like the omega-3s can be really helpful. So they'll help that. Turmeric for a
Turmeric's
person.
amazing, but curcumin is the one that
curcumin is the potent part of that. So if you do a few Indian dishes, again, do I need the supplement? Yeah, look, curcumin can be really helpful, but maybe I know one of the centers, they'll do turmeric shots in the morning and things like that. So if you've got an inflammatory issue and it's like, how do I know I have that? Maybe you've got a lot of water retention.
Yeah,
maybe you've got some injuries and things like that. Then maybe trying the omega-3s. And again, there is like, here's a reason.
Flaxseed oil as well or no?
Yeah, flax is high in omega-3, but the conversion takes a little bit more. So for those vegans, I mean, seaweed is the class. That's why fish have high amounts. So that we do have vegan versions of
like a kombu or something like that, like a kombu seaweed or something.
Yeah, like those, but they've had to extract it. So they've actually had to extract it out. But obviously with supplements at the moment, like transport might be an issue. So flax seeds are also so good fat, but good protein and fiber. Flax seeds are awesome.
Yeah.
Hemp seeds have a good balance.
Yeah, hemp seeds is good. But I was just putting them in my shake the other day, and when you saw me, you said you have to break the seeds
crush them first,
so that they digest better.
But I mean, don't buy them crushed, because as soon as you crush them, the oil will be released and it can be oxidized. So the protection is there. But what I usually say for a smoothie is throw the flax seeds into the smoothie machine first, crush them up, and then add the rest of your ingredients, or crush them that way. And then as soon as you crush them, if you've got leftover, put them in the fridge.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of buying the flaxseed oil.
Already milled. Oh, no, I don't do
that. I know some people, like one of the best oils I used to use had some in there, one called Udo's, that was a combination of different coconut oil, flaxseed oil, and some very small cold processed like a sunflower, but it was very high quality, and we used to use that. But today I'm a little bit more in terms of if I can. Obviously, we have our fish oils, or for vegan, they can have their omega-3 version there, but flax seeds are really high. Hemp has a good ratio of omega-3 to 6.
Yeah. I quite like hemp seeds. We had a bit of an issue here in Thailand where they stopped them for a little while, but now they've brought them back. They don't call them seeds anymore. They call them nuts or something.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that most of them now are in liquid.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like a natural FA. They've put them into a pack. Because I make hemp milk. I love hemp milk. I find it really great for my smoothies and everything. Awesome. But I do like hemp.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of thinking about, again, for the immune system and inflammation are really connected. And so it's like, what can I do to get flow going through my body, how I move my body, how to clean, eat, and sleep, all those. Again, the basics.
I'm actually going to be doing free live yoga in the mornings and throughout the day, I'd imagine, just for people that need some help on movement. And hopefully it builds a community, like this is the other idea behind this, is to try to get some information out there which doesn't sound too medical or chemical or spiritual, or and then to have people that are joining in the group to support each other, this is the great thing about this modern age, is that there's FaceTime, there's Skype, there's all of these sorts of things. So if you feel like you're challenged mentally, or you're having an issue, there are options to reach out to people online that can help, and we're one of them, and hopefully a community can build that will also help you. But I think if we look at everything, if we pull back and look at everything, it's just about being a bit more responsible on your life, and not like just waking up and letting the day just roll.
Yeah, I think it's a great chance for it to take, and also to kind of say what matters to me.
Yeah.
What's important, and even
what
kind
is
of prioritizing.
Because your life's been simplified.
Yeah,
it
can be a great thing. I really think. Oftentimes I'm working with a client, and we do this. I use this model called a choice point, and basically the first thing is saying what's important to you. What are your values?
Yeah.
Before, I know you're coming to see me because you want to lose weight, or you've got this going on, but let's talk about where we want to be.
Yeah.
Let's not just focus on where we're at now, and so a person gets an opportunity to say, actually, who is the person I want to be? What is really important to me? Okay, so health I've kind of neglected, or this relationship or something.
Yeah.
How can I really start putting more attention on that? Because we live in a very distracted world. So
yeah,
hopefully this is an opportunity. I mean, there's so many distractions. I look, and when I kind of flip onto Twitter or some of these other things, it gets like,
yeah.
I mean, even in terms of knowledge-wise, like I said, I'll put some of the resources that I look at. But my job for myself and for clients is to try to filter and say, okay, let's first start. So I haven't gone into details with nutrition, and I'm waiting people can ask questions in terms of more details. I really personally wanted to emphasize, first of all, of people standing back and trying to take stock and say, let's focus on these foundations: mindset, lifestyle, nutrition, and movement. Keep it really simple to start. And then once the person's got, like, yeah, I'm eating clean, again, person's eating rubbish and they're taking a lot of supplements, like, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But I'm doing 80% of these things. Now where do we go?
Then the story will, like if you simplify, then the true story of what's happening in the body without too much sugar or without all of these sorts of things will actually sort of unfold. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a big one though. I mean, isolation. I don't know what we're going to get told here in Phuket. It's just business as usual
at the moment. But I think just like anywhere where we are going to be, we're all going to have our little worlds affected. Like I said, it looks like in the next days, I know that the rumor is the schools are going to be closing, and so that's going to affect a lot of families, including my own here, and certain health centres that we work at. They're being affected by, in terms of the airports, like people saying, okay, we've got to shut even someone said, let's shut the bridge down that connects us to the mainland, and let's obviously the airport, let's close that down, let's isolate ourselves. And so there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm sure everywhere
the
else
Prime
is
Minister
in the world.
of Australia said that this is going to affect work and working life and everything until September. So it's a long way away.
It's a long way away, and I suppose I don't think anyone, we're throwing ideas and what's potential. So for me, it's like, me personally, it's like, okay, let's be a little bit prepared.
Yeah.
I don't think I need 50 dozen or 1,000 pieces of toilet paper. Fortunately, we've got a bum going here.
Hose, yeah.
But be a bit prepared, get myself mentally in the right place, because I don't know how the rest of the world is going to react. But if I can be still
and
in
look
myself.
after yourself. Like, Mike, my mum rang me. She said, did you know that you have to wash your hands for 2 rounds of happy birthday?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So wash your hands for happy birthday to me twice is the amount of time that you should wash hands. And, she's concerned about me having the students come in. She's like, when the students come in, give them some alcohol rub. But apparently soap and water is better than the alcohol rub if you can choose. I don't know. That's someone who said that to me now.
Yeah, no, I everywhere I've been reading is in terms of alcohol as a player and in terms of those disinfectants.
I think you just minimize your contact, wash your hands, wash your doors and your surfaces. Don't hug too many people, which is fine with me, but like no massive interaction.
Do the foot thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and that's the like looking at the charts where they were showing spread. Funny enough, last night I was talking to a guy, and again, I love the flip side of how people think. And he said, I really want to get it. I want to get it now, because in case I get it, the hospital beds will be like full later. And it was kind of that joke to go, I want to get through it. And in terms of how, obviously, again, these questions about how the immune response and all that. But I thought, wow, that's a different way of thinking too. I'm a little bit like the cautious, like let's just I'm trying to be business as usual in terms of interactions and things like this. But I think it's really interesting if you can stand back as much as possible and just to, like, if everyone's got an opinion. Like I find it really interesting right now to listen to different opinions, but then go, okay, I'm going to filter it myself, and I'm going to think common sense, what works for me, what do I need to do it. And like I said, because we can really, the rabbit hole is getting deeper and deeper and wider. And I think if it freaks a person out, it's just like, let's just go back to basics. Think really simple, look after yourself, do those things, and
but this is
write it out.
I don't know. This is give us some feedback on. I'm looking at all the.
Yeah, I know there's a lot. I know
there's 4, but I think my camera went flat. But give us some feedback and some ideas for what you want to hear about, and we'll add some links for what we've spoken about.
Some of the resources.
I mean, ordering online is good, but I think there's a bit of an issue now. Like iHerb have said that they're going to stop some deliveries to Thailand,
the one that I use. I looked last night, and there's one package is stuck in Hong Kong, one is still in California, or the other one's cleared California. It's on a way now to somewhere, and the other one's just still in California. So I'm like, might see that in a few months. Who knows?
So if you have the opportunity and of some online place that you can order supplements and stuff from, maybe try to do that now before it's too late. But there's other ways.
Your local, in terms of those supplements, like looking at your local health food store, see what they've got, having a chat to them. But like I said, really trying to just plan out and trying to
plan
think,
a day. Just like I did. I've got my whiteboard, and I sort of planned a day as if I was still working. I wake up, I do a bit of this, and then from 9 to now, 9 to this amount of time, that's when I will do computer work, and then maybe I'll have a rest, maybe do some exercise, read a book. The other thing is, you don't want to get stuck on social media all the time. This is a perfect opportunity for you to spend time with yourself, or to read a book, or to doodle, or to draw, or to do some of the things that you don't have time to do throughout the day. Don't just get stuck watching Netflix and getting lost in social media. There's more to life than that, and this is, in isolation, it's a really perfect opportunity to learn more about yourself, I guess, and the things that make you uncomfortable, because I'm sure there's going to be things that will make you feel uncomfortable, restless and anxious, and mental note, write those down and try to work on them, try to find ways to make those reactions not so strong.
I think it's on a good note. So give us some feedback, see what you're interested, throw some questions, and we'll look forward to
Yogi and the Geek
speaking to you soon.
Out.
Have a
microphone dropped.
was that?
An hour?
Okay.
Are you sure you want?